What is a personal story you have that you don't tell because it sounds made up? That the picture my mom have on her wall isn't me. It was my twin sister who died many years ago when we were kids. I went to a July 4th party at Mark Zuckerberg's house once and he grilled me a burger. When I was 15, I entered a national portraiture competition and unexpectedly won it. I had a 30-minute conversation about art with the late Queen of England. She gave me a book about fine art and some shopping vouchers as a prize. I met Quentin Tarantino in a record DVD shop in LA. We spoke for a few minutes, but he preferred that we didn't get a photo. I told a handful of people and without proof, the story was met with disdain and disbelief. So now I don't really put that story out there anymore. A couple of friends and I were messing around in an abandoned quarry. I slipped off the edge and fell about 60 feet only to be saved from death by a tree branch getting caught between my boot and the laces. My friends found some of that strange blue plastic rope that you find near industrial sites and hauled my terrified 10-year-old self back to the top. I've done some stupid stuff, but that is by far the most idiotic, and no one believes it even happened. That I went to Universal Studios as a kid and took pictures sitting on Mr. T's shoulders from a team and also with Michael and Kit from the Knight Rider, and we lost that roll of film before we could develop it. It's probably the only roll of film we've ever lost lol. I slipped on a banana peel once. I told a few people and they didn't believe me, so I stopped telling people. Last summer, while swimming at a busy beach, I got caught in a rip current and had to be rescued by a lifeguard. Before I was rescued, a crowd gathered. When I finally got pulled out, exhausted, disheveled, covered in seaweed, dizzy, disoriented, tit spilling out of my bathing suit, etc., everyone started to clap. Most humiliating moment of my life, but also my only literal and then everyone clapped story. I was held at gunpoint in Oakland. I accidentally made a joke to the robber. He laughed so hard he let us go. I got very sick when I was in middle school. Like seriously sick. I wasn't even able to walk. I used to crawl to bathroom, standing up straight used to make everything look inverted. I was also getting weird rashes on my body. I also had very severely headaches, non-stop for months. We went to many doctors, but nothing worked. Painkillers did nothing, doctors couldn't diagnose the disease. Then one day, I woke up and it was gone. Months of pain gone in an instant. Next door to my childhood home was this vacation cottage, owned by an older English couple, Mr. and Mrs. Edgar. They were fascinating people, very upper crust, posh accents etc., but lovely, and I spent as much time as possible with them. At one point, Mr. Edgar had dealings with Walt Disney, and apparently the evil butler from the Aristocats was named after him. I was stabbed in the ass working at a convenience store Halloween night. By a girl dressed like an anime character with a dollar store pumpkin carving knife for a cherry-flavored cigarello. A crazy homeless guy once chased me home. Luckily I ran into my apartment building before he caught me. I tell that story, but with most people leave out the fact that his hands and pants were covered in blood. It just sounds too horror movie outlandish. I went on a solo hike and got lost in the woods for 412 days. I haven't eaten much other than some snacks I packed and very minimal water. I was definitely dehydrated and probably should have went to the hospital, but just went home and got ready for work the next day and acted like nothing happened. No one would believe me anyway, so I don't even mention it. I had classes with Joe Steve from Stranger Things in college. I've stopped mentioning it, started telling it because my job required participation in icebreakers because people assume I'm friends or still know him. No. We had 2 classes together. He was just some dude at the time. My mother, the actual mayor of small beach town, USA, who stops to talk to everyone in town, does not even speak to me. I flipped a coin and it landed on neither heads or tails. It landed on the rim. Of course I took a picture, but obviously just looks like I perched it like that. No one ever believes me. That when I was a child I saw a thylacine. Everyone thinks they are extinct. I grew up in an area that was one of the last known locations and used to go bushwalking a lot. Not my story, but my dad's. While my dad was getting his master's in sports management, he had a project of coming up with a sporting event and planning out the logistics of it and all that jazz. The idea was having a golf tournament that included the PGA Tour, the WPGA, and the Senior Tour. His professor told him and his classmates he worked on the project with that it was not a good idea and that it would not get any traction. Fast forward a couple of years and what do you know, it is a televised event. The professor had taken the idea for his own and my dad never got any credit for it. When I lived in Aberystwyth, a small Welsh town, our dog was rescued off the roof of the chip shop by the mayor. Made the front page of the local paper. I stopped a woman from killing herself. I had to lay on the ground for hours while we waited for ambulances. She kept trying to cut her wrists or run into traffic. I came across a big bloody wedge-tail eagle was flying off with a full-grown Dorper sheep in its claws. Flew up roughly 400 m, then dive-bombed the sheep into the ground to kill it. Made a hell of a noise when the sheep landed. Was out near Newdigate in West Aus. My sister got lost and walked into a bull area from a show at a rodeo. Yay, that was a story. My mother's birthday is the same day as my boyfriend's father's birthday. Same thing for my father's birthday and his mother's. Our parents also share the same anniversary, same day, month and year. We discovered this after getting together. I woke up a little late one morning. Around 9 a.m. And I saw I had a missed call from my dad who I was staying with at the time. I tried calling back but he didn't answer. I was going to go back to sleep but I kept getting this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I just knew something bad happened. I went to go look for him and found him in the floor of the kitchen. He had a heart attack. He's alive still, couple stints put in and he's all good. When I passed my driving test, my instructor told me I was the best student he ever taught and he knew I would pass. Jokingly I asked who was the worst student he ever had. He said about 20 years ago he taught a woman who got so nervous during the exam she lost control and destroyed a wall, a tree, and a direction pole and was banned from taking the test again. That night we had a house party to celebrate me passing and my mom told me that woman is my aunt, face with tears of joy. I had a cat that didn't land on its feet. When I was a younger man, I had a little thing you could call a massive drinking problem. One Friday night I went to a mate's house, began getting into it. Next memory is me coming to in a bus stop, in my undies and someone else's t-shirt, with only a shrink-wrapped package of plant matter next to me. Turns out it was roughly 4 kilograms of weed, and I was in a city 300 kilometers from home. So that's the story of how I gave up drinking. While working my first job ever at 16, I was delivering pizzas during the summer and was tipped $10,000 cash. Snoop Dogg took one hit off a blunt and gave the rest to me without saying a word. I had traveled several states to visit my boyfriend. We broke up. My mom drove 8 hours to come pick me up. On the 8-hour drive back, yes, I thanked her profusely. As I was sobbing, a group of bikers drive by. Like full-on biker gang, matching leather jackets, all of that. Except when we saw their faces we realized they were all 75-year-old ladies. The epic granny bikers did make me feel better about the whole ordeal. When I was like 5 I stole what I thought was just a very fluffy puppy out of a man's basement with my older cousin. When we took it back to the woods I asked my cousin why it lived in the woods, and he told me it was a special kind of puppy. Then we ran into the mama bear and it all clicked and we had to race a bear on his junky quad that only had 3 tires. My mom never let him babysit after that.